All right, once you have the base to your mask, sculpted that slab of clay that's placed on your mold, now what you need to do is look at your idea sheet, the photos, or the drawing that you completed to figure out how are you going to transform this into your concept. So, some of you are going to be removing pieces of the mask based upon the design. So if you don't picture the mask below the eyes, you can cut that away and take that out. For me, I'm going to be turning it into my dog, whose name is Huli. So what I need to now visualize is what are the areas that need to be 3D and sculpted off the surface. Remember that you had to have at minimum 5 extra areas that were 3-dimensional pieces of clay that you attach to the surface, but also you're trying to tell a story or a theme to your mask. So for me, I need to be building up the nose of my dog, and I need to be building in the eyeballs of my dog, and then these floppy ears that are going to be hanging over the top. So I'm going to show you how you go about starting to sculpt 3D features and then attach them to the surface of your mask. So I'm going to start to build up the snout of my dog. So to do that, I'm going to take a piece of clay, and I'm going to kind of visualize how much clay is needed to get a similar width and height or depth off that mask. And then I'm going to be attaching this to the surface. So this is going to be done in kind of 2 steps. So I want to squish this clay. I'm going to wedge this kind of in my hands to make sure it really is compact and I don't have air trapped inside that. And then I'm going to be attaching it towards kind of this portion of the face. So anytime we attach clay, we need to score, slip, stick, smooth. So what you guys are going to do is put some water inside the bowls. Please only fill it half full so that when you walk it back and forth from the sink, you're not spilling water on the floor. Then inside your buckets, you've got toothbrushes, although that one's in terrible shape. Okay, so you've got some toothbrushes inside your bucket. This is what we're going to do for score and slip. So if your clay is soft, meaning it's wet, it's moldable, it's not leather hard, all you need to do is dip your toothbrush in water and then brush on the surface of the clay where you're going to attach your piece together. As you brush, you're scoring the clay, and then the water on the toothbrush is making slip on the surface. Slip is the glue that holds the clay together. Slip is just a watered down clay. So it's just slimy clay that's becoming the glue. So you want to brush both surfaces. And now I'm at step 3, which is to stick. So now I'm going to stick these together. And now I'm in step 4, which is to smooth. So right now this looks nothing like my dog's face yet. I'm going to begin to shape that and form that. So now I'm going to take my thumbs and I'm going to start to smear and smooth this clay into my mask around the edges. Now, if that gap is too big, let me pick this up. Okay, so if this space is too wide for me to smooth that, here's where I might add a coil. So I could take another piece of clay, roll that in my hands to make the coil, and then I can brush one edge of the coil. I'm going to brush here again. And then I could set this coil around the base to start to fill in some of that gap, and then I can begin to do the smoothing where I'm smearing this clay to fill in that hole or that gap. Now the key is you don't want to be trapping air in this process, so you need everything nice and compact. And I'm going to kind of pick up my mask and rotate things. Now here it's kind of sunken in, so I think I'm going to put another coil in that location. So what we're going to do is all the forming of the 3D pieces to begin with. But from our note taking, I also said that clay that is thicker than your finger has to be hollowed out. We will do that last, and I'll show you how we go about doing that, but really we need to get all our 3D features sculpted to begin with. Okay, so now I'm starting to build up that muzzle or the nose piece to my dog. So if I didn't like this step right here, how it's kind of got this corner, I would just keep attaching more clay. Alright, so this is what I have built up for the top part of my dog's nose. So he's got like this bottom chin and then kind of like the muzzle piece, and then he has these jowls that hang on this side. So I made 2 slabs of clay that are going to be attached over the top of this structure, kind of in this position. Okay, so the jowls are going to hang down, and then I'm going to be blending that into the rest of the muzzle up here. So when I attach my slabs, I still have to do score, slip, stick, smooth. So I'm going to brush anywhere there's contact where they're going to touch. You need to do the score and slip. Then we'll stick. And then I'm going to have to score and slip. And then stick. Okay, so these jowls are going to kind of hang forward off his bottom jaw. So now, I don't want those to be seen from the side of my mask, and I don't want this to be seen on this edge. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start to either cut away that extra clay, or I'm just going to start to smear it into the surface that's already there. So I did trim some of the top of that. And now I'm just smoothing, where I'm blending this away. So it kind of gradually turns into jowls and then disappears into the skin of his head. And then I might cut this back a little bit. Okay, so that is like this front piece of his jowls hanging down over his face. So then I'm going to have to sculpt in his nose next. But anytime you need something to be attached that is sticking up off the surface and possibly sticking straight up in the air, or like this ear is going to be folded over, you have to consider that clay that's soft is very flexible and it's not very stable, meaning gravity is going to take over. So I'm going to show you how you can create that. So if I was going to be creating a slab of clay for the ear, I could either flatten that with my hand, or I could get my rolling pin and roll that out. So maybe this is going to be the shape of my ear. So if I want this ear to attach and fold forward, I need to put an extra piece underneath this to hold it in that folded position. So what you can use is either paper towel or maybe some tin foil that you could use as a brace. So whichever we have near, either is fine. Okay, so I might take this bit of tin foil, and I need to put enough foil or paper towel underneath here so that it has something to rest on while it dries in that angle. Because if I just attach it now without it, it's just going to collapse and it's going to sink. But I want it to kind of be up and forward. So I need to put something underneath to give it a support to rest on to dry in that position. So if I was going to be attaching that, I would get my toothbrush, score, slip, stick. and then make sure that you've got that brace under there just long enough for it to dry in that position. Once that piece is dry, then you can remove this. When it's leather hard, it will stay in that position, so you need to consider that when you are shaping your project. Another issue, when we clean up at the end of the period, if you have something that is sticking straight up off the mask. So for example, if I had a piece of clay that was sticking straight up off the mask, when we clean up today, what you need to do is spray your clay. So now we're going to start to introduce water. So I'm going to spray it a couple times around all edges and the surface and the rag. And then I need to still fold my rag over the top of my project to protect it. And then I still pick this whole board up and put it in my plastic bag. However, soft clay will collapse if the rag is touching something tall without a support around it. So, same thing. You could use tin foil, you could use paper towel, but what you want is to put something next to that clay piece, or you could do this with other clay. Even. You could do it with other clay. That's just temporary. It's just to create a support so the rag doesn't knock your piece over. So what I can do is shape this clay and put it next to this so it's got a support to hold it. So now when my fabric drapes on top and my fabric wraps around it, that extra piece of clay next to it is going to help support that piece so it won't break off. So you need to consider that when you clean up today. Every student needs to spray their clay, spray the rag, fold the rag over the top, and then put the whole board with your project back into your plastic bag.